On the news tonight, Nigeria to intensify surveillance, report cases of rashes to curtail the spread of mpox in the country. ECOWAS Commission expresses continuous support to Nigeria in humanitarian intervention for the vulnerable. Good evening and welcome to NTA Ijebu ode News at 7. My name is Anthony Gandonu. Now the news in details. Intensifying surveillance across the country as well as reporting cases of rashes for risk profiling to curtail the spread of mpox in the country has been echoed on Good Morning Nigeria. The guests are emphatic that though the strain in Nigeria at the moment is less, virulent health workers must be on high alert given the unpredictable nature of viruses to mutate. Lydia Sampson reports.
Though mpox is highly transmitted through sexual contact, medical experts are urging Nigerians to be cautious, prepared, and continuously wash their hands and use sanitizers to contain the spread of the disease in Nigeria. They are optimistic that if lessons learned in curtailing Ebola and COVID-19 are deployed, Nigeria can contain the disease.
Mpox is not like COVID that is spread through, by aerosol and others. But this one is contact. You have to come into contact, either skin to skin contact or sexual contact and all this. So it makes it much easier, to really, protect yourself from mpox. But unfortunately, and that is the most important aspect there, almost 80% of the cases are mild.
We have that collaborations and we have the exchange program whereby we can support the other countries, and that is why we have the system in place whereby each member country have what we call the search staff. We call it rapid response register for each countries. Then the African country have the central one whereby they look at what individual country have in terms of capacity to be able to support other countries.
The guest reiterates continuous health education to equipping the people with knowledge is critical.
We need to be able to produce our vaccines. There may be a time when we would need to vaccinate people against mpox because there's a vaccine for it. Okay. But again, the most important vaccine is our attitude. Hygiene conscious, wash your hands as frequently as possible, be clean, personal hygiene, environmental sanitation, keep your ears open so that if you hear of something that could affect you, you respond appropriately.
Tracking coordinated response amongst countries, the health experts acknowledge must be expanded. They also emphasize the need for more funding and equipping of primary healthcare centers for proactive interventions. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
The ECOWAS Commission has expressed continuous support to Nigeria, especially in the area of humanitarian intervention for the vulnerable. This was during a presentation of food items to the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons for onward distribution to the refugee communities in the FCT. Ruth Agwele reports.
To be called a refugee is a sign of strength. Never you feel stigmatized. Never you feel left behind.
Words of hope to her counterpart, Dr. Yvonne Endam, one of the refugees from different African countries, with majority from Cameroon, have found a haven in Nigeria, a place they learned to call their new home. As they engaged the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons on their challenges, they also expressed gratitude for the gesture shown to them.
Using the opportunity to pledge that we will continue to work with Nigeria.
The ECOWAS Commission presented food items and other condiments for onward distribution to the refugee community in the Federal Capital Territory. The Commission also pledged to double the items.
Thank God it is coming at a time where the rice is like gold. So to us it's like we just received gold.
I thank the Nigerian Commission for taking care of us.
The National Commissions for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons is working out modalities into involving them into providing for themselves as against receiving from donors or individuals. But this is the only way that we can have a sustainability in their living, sustainability for their future.
ECOWAS has budgeted about $1.7 million, which already we have started working with government in terms of durable solutions.
The Commission expressed its commitment to upscale intervention in the area of education, while putting modalities in place for the establishment of a refugee center to strengthen refugee management in the country. In Abuja, Ruth Aguwele, NTA News.
For Africa to optimize her advantage in abundant natural resources and take a quantum lead in human development, the continent must look inward for solutions, starting with right education for her youth. Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu gave this submission during an audience to Burundian ambassador to Nigeria, Edward Nduwimana. State House correspondent Adini Itaiwo reports.
Since 2006, Nigeria and Burundi have enjoyed good relations, and the ambassador of the East African country, Edward Nduwimana, is at the office of Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu on a mission to strengthen the ties.
Africa is a continent that is good.
The solution to Africa's problems lie with Africans, the First Lady was quick to say, noting that it is time for African countries to strengthen the bond of brotherhood for development on the continent. She says the days of taking the natural resources that the continent is endowed with for granted are over, and called on leaders to work towards empowering and enlisting youths in developmental efforts.
And I thank God that Africa has known that the way out for us is to make sure that our youth are educated so that they can really have the right of place in the marketplace. So, and I believe that the youth should realize that they need to really brace themselves up. When we continue to do what is right for them and also lead by example, we'll be able to win our youth over so that they can join in how we build, the next century.
While Burundi's desire and request for investment from Nigeria has already been laid before the president, the ambassador says the visit is to register his country's appreciation for the First Lady's interest and support for education. The ambassador, who spoke in French, acknowledged that Burundi has had its fair share of challenges, but notes that the country is now back on the path of peace and progress.
We have also established a commission for peace and reconciliation, and we are on our way to development.
He equally presented an invitation from the First Lady of Burundi, Angeline Ndayubaha, to her Nigerian counterpart, seeking a visit to Burundi. In the State House, Adeni Itaiwo, NTA News.
Now to Lagos State. 200 females have been selected across the 5 divisions of Lagos State to participate in female first-time farmers. This initiative of the First Lady of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, is tagged "Every Home a Garden." Wife of the Lagos State Governor, Dr. Ibijoke Sanwo-Olu, made this known at a seminar organized for the selected participants at the Lagos House, Ikeja. Eze Onwamaka reports.
The scheme, tagged Every Home a Garden competition, under the Renewed Hope initiative of the First Lady of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, is aimed at encouraging Nigerians to complement government's efforts in tackling food insecurity by embracing home farming in all states of the Federation.
We all like to take responsibility to grow something that at the end of the day, you yourself, you can be proud of, that yes, through my sweat, labor, and tears, I was able to bring all this crop. This is a stepping stone for you to start your own family. You never can tell. Before you know it, one of you can be a mechanized farmer. Today is a day for me. I have very
seminar organized for the 200 females selected from the 5 divisions of the state for the national competition, according to Dr. Ibijoke Sanwo-Olu, will enlighten the participants on the guidelines and procedures in emerging as a winner of the competition.
Every move they guided competition aimed at promoting home farming comes at a critical time when food prices are soaring across our country and beyond. Her Excellency Civil Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON, rightly believes that embracing home farming will bring much needed relief to many Nigerians at this time in our nation.
The Every Home, a garden competition, will culminate in December this year with a grand prize of 20 million naira given to the winner of the national competition. In Lagos, S.A. Owamaka, NTA News.
Now to Youth Matter. The Forum of National Youth Leaders of Political Parties in Nigeria is taking the lead to mobilize youth structures across the country to ensure that no issue is left out in the consideration to be made in rebuilding the nation in the post-protest era. The forum also believes that the government deserves commendation for the way it handled the recent End Bad Governance protest in some parts of the country. Timothy Yusuf reports.
This briefing by the Forum of National Youth Leaders of Political Parties in Nigeria followed intense deliberations on the state of the nation. They believe that as the face of the youth of the country who have a footing on the political landscape, the forum has continued to express its desire for alternative resolutions to challenges than confrontational approach.
We strongly recommended the spirit of reconciliation, which is the first step towards integrating our young people into the post-protest development agenda. That this dialogue should be replicated in the geopolitical zones and other subunits that will draw participation from our youth in the rural areas, which is where bulk of the youth are inspired to hope for collaboration with them.
The forum unanimously agreed that the consequences of confrontation are always dire, often leaving all factors devastated. Also, it has developed a strategic document that highlights the specific areas of concern as expressed by the youth during the recent protests and the necessary steps required to meet them. Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
The news will continue after this break. Stay tuned.
NTA Ijebu ode. NTA Achowe salutu o. NTA Ijebu ode. NTA na baba. NTA Ijebu ode, your heritage station.
You're welcome back. A committee set to be seen. A committee to see to the successful conduct of the 2024 service of 9 lessons and carols has been inaugurated.
The General of the NTA, Salihu Abdulhamid Dembos, represented by the Executive Director Engineering, Iji Osagi, assured the committee representatives from NTA, FRCN and VON of the foremost media organizations' support for the success of the annual event.
Do their part, then VON too. But I know that may not be enough for us. So if you have to have a very good outing, a very rich outing, then money will be spent. Money has to be spent. So and that money has to be sourced for.
The organization far more into the budgeting and the sponsorship of the program.
We are not going to fall short of the expectations. So at the end of the day, the name of the Lord will be glorified.
NTA is to host this year's edition.
Now to sports. Super Falcons has maintained the position of first female national team in Africa and 36th in the world in latest FIFA ranking. For more sports news, let's join Gift George in the sports update.
Nigeria's representative for the 2024-25 CAF Champions League, Rangers International Football Club, have arrived in Uyo for the opening fixture in the CAF Champions League. The team is hoping for a good outing against the Comoros Island champions in the first leg of the preliminary rounds of this season's CAF Champions League. The club has been training for the past 3 weeks for the encounter under coach Fidelis Ilechukwu. Meanwhile, the Comoros Island League champions arrived the country on Wednesday for the first leg of the preliminary fixture against Rangers, which comes up this Sunday at the Goswell International Stadium, Uyo, while the return leg is scheduled for the same venue on August 23, 2024. In the women's football, Africa's representatives for the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup, Colombia 2024, are getting set for the competition, which begins August 31st to September 22. Spain are defending champions after their success in Costa Rica in 2022. The tournament has grown from 16 countries to 24 for the 2024 edition, following the decision of FIFA to expand. Cameroon is in Group A, where it will take on Colombia, Mexico, and Australia. Morocco is in Group C, alongside defending champions Spain, USA, and Paraguay. Nigeria's Falconets, who are two-time runner-up, will fly the country's flag in Group D against Germany, Venezuela, and Korea, while Ghana will take on New Zealand, Japan, and Austria in Group E. On the international scene, in combat sports, Nigeria's UFC fighter Israel Adesanya will be on the verge of making history as he takes on Dricus du Plessis in the UFC 305 this weekend. The fight, which many pundits believe is beyond just the middleweight title at stake, will take place in Perth, New Zealand on Saturday 3 a.m. Nigerian time. It's an extension of the sports rivalry between Nigeria and South Africa, as both fighters have been talking tough ahead of the encounter to determine who is the best African fighter in the UFC middleweight category. Sports Update, Gifts George, NTA News.
So much for the news tonight. Join Idowu Ogunbajo for the Yoruba version of the news.